All right, mates, welcome back. JL Scott Fishing and Eats. Everybody's doing well heading into the weekend. Had a bunch of messages about baits right now. It's August, September. We're going to get into repositioning coming up in fall. But really for August so far, last week of August, heading into what will be a repositioning or fall transition that people talk about as you're paying attention to those temperatures. The bait fish have been really small. So most of the guys have downsized appropriately, whether that's a smaller size tube, a smaller size whopper plopper to like a 90 millimeter, maybe from your traditional like 110. But also using the craze now, what they call bitsy baits, right? They're really smaller size baits. That's what's being really effective now in August. Remember, our rivers are down, way down. They're below historic averages in terms of like 2 feet or less. Some areas of the river systems are 6 to 8, 10 inches, depending on your river system. Here where I am, the Monocasie's way down, the Rivanna's way down, Shenandoah's way down. All these river systems are down. Upper Potomac has sections that are less than a foot of water. You're going to find that correlates to a lot of smaller bait fish, okay, that are what become the forage species. So a few of the baits right now that are being used highly effectively right now on these baits are going to be these smaller size baits, okay, in traditional, okay, forage patterns, all right? Really easy meals. They're in that weird funk where they're not as aggressive as they have been. They're kind of like in that stupor before they're going to start to feed up. And you can check that out on my Facebook page about some transitioning and repositioning for fall, what's about to happen as the water temperatures come down, as the overnight temperatures come down. But you really want to focus on downsizing your baits, okay, for the rest of August, okay, and really the early September until you see, as opposed to throwing those bigger chatter baits, bigger profile baits, because that's just not really indicative. You're not saying you won't get a reaction strike, but it's not really indicative. You really want to catch a lot of fish. This is the kind of stuff that you want to go to. You can certainly work within the presentations. Think of the size, and I basically have the same size here, okay? It's basically the same size, all right, on a top spin. This is a P-line top spin. I'm sorry, a first-gen fishing top spin by P-line, okay? I like to use the red head. I love to use the red as much as I can. Doesn't matter whether or not you get a red jig head or you use nail polish or whatever. For some reason, red just attracts a lot more strikes in where I fish in the river systems than, say, the traditional green pumpkin or the regular natural shad. But see, the size is basically the same, okay? But the action is going to be different with the top spin, okay? You could also use the underspin. That may work for you. You can also roll into another one that's been crazy, like, and I haven't thrown this bait for probably 2 years or so, that I broke back out, breaking into an older tackle box, is the jointed, okay? On the Monocasie River the other day, this was a crazy little bait, that got 8-9 strikes within like an hour and a half. Like, it's just, these are the things that, like, they're not used to seeing certain style baits in the water, or a lot of people are going and throwing larger size whopper ploppers and shatter baits. Just the fish is just with the water down. Those profiles are just too big. If you do want to get up into that bigger area at the moment, I would recommend, in larger size, mid-range size, I would recommend nothing bigger than this size right here, okay? In a jerk bait, which still can work. It's probably still early, really, but you can. If you've got a dam, like I've got dam 4, I've got old dam 2, I've got stuff where I've got a lot of current, a lot of drop off, or a ledge after a lot of current, with a lot of current, then I'm going to go with this, okay? Any kind of rising water, anything like that, obviously you're going to look at towards like a spinnerbait, okay? Small, compact spinnerbaits, natural profiles. Now, as we move in the next week or two, what I'm going to transition to is going to be, now it depends. If you're on the river or on the lake, it's the same thing. You want to just change your patterns, okay? You can use the same bait, just kind of like a different tweak. I love this, okay? These colors are the colors of my river system, okay? It's phenomenal, phenomenal. It's got the rattle, it's got the noise, it's got a smaller profile, okay? Now, if you're on a lake or a reservoir, or you're on a river that's got a little shad, you know you've got American shad, you've got a bunch of shad and all that kind of stuff, you can go to, obviously, towards something a little bit different. These two baits come from Lake Edge Lures, okay? You've got a nice purple cracked shad, American shad, sexy shad kind of variation there. But this is the kind of size right now. Here, listen to that. This is what you want. A smaller size profile bait. These are 1.5s. This is kind of like what you want. Okay? One of the other baits in the crankbait kind of family that I like is I love, like, it goes back, correlates to this. If I see that this is working, this red was working, and then kind of that bite goes away, all in the maybe mid-morning or whatever, then I'll switch to a bait like this. Okay, that red molten kind of crawl color. Okay, this one's a Willamette crankbait. But again, size here is crucial. Okay, but this again, relate to what's working for you. Sometimes that soft plastic bite is there and the color you got, a Ned Rig color, anything like that. But then it kind of dies. Okay, change it up. Use the same color, but just kind of change up the presentation. Okay, and how it's moving in the water, how it's displacing the water. That's the change is what really, really entices that strike. Okay, and then of course, obviously, if you're going to go out in the early morning hours, you know what's happening at night. They're feeding during the night right now. Okay, if you got moon conditions on your side, you know they're feeding during the night, and you're only going to have that short window. That short window in the morning from like 6 a.m., 5:36 to like 8 a.m., right? And everybody's going out there and pounding it with a chatterbait or a whopper plopper or something topwater, because they know that's going to be the coolest part of the day, right? But they've already been feeding most of the night. So I characterize that as the dessert. You're basically going out there during the dessert course, okay? Because they've been eating all during the night. One of the things you can do is just downsize your whopper plopper. This is a 90 millimeter, okay? Whopper plopper, all right? And use that to your advantage, okay? Remember, it's the action that you're really going for, not the size. Okay, this is a flat side, okay? A little bit different than, say, your standard, like, river to sea whopper plopper, okay? The belly's not as big. It runs through the water a lot different, more cleaner, I like to say. And then one of the other things you can think about, when I've been effective in using, depending on your colors from this regard haven't really been that, haven't really been distinguished one color or the other in terms of effectiveness, is your plopper, okay? Just a popper. That's it, okay? Small profile bait, okay? Early morning hours. These will work. I'll get another video for you guys concentrating on what's going to happen in Maryland and Virginia. But for the most part, Maryland, when we start talking about the annual trout stocking that's going to take place beginning in the next 6 weeks, where Maryland DNR, DWR will be stocking a lot of lakes, reservoirs, sometimes rivers, with trout, okay? And that is, the bite is going to be fire, okay? Because all that trout during any of the transitional phases or during fall, those fingerlings and those trouts are going to get pushed up. Doesn't matter whether you're largemouth, smallmouth. Basically, they're going to get corralled and try to get pinned into pockets, coves, creeks, wherever you are. The bass will try and pin those guys up and then feed off them for a long, not just a day, for a longer period of time. They want to have access to that feed, so they will pin them up. And that's when these baits, your rainbow trout, swim baits, glide baits, poppers, jerk baits, anything in that trout type pattern is going to be extremely, extremely effective for you. So when that stocking hits, if you follow my channel, JL Scott Fishing and Eats, on Facebook, I basically post where Maryland is stocking, the morning they are stocking, where they are stocking upon release of that information to the public. I share that with my audience. Last year it was a blast, in terms of people getting out there, catching the trout, obviously, but also catching those predators looking in to feed on, basically that trout resource. So there's a couple of baits you could just use here. Another one that's really crazy on Monocacy, parts of the upper Potomac, mouths and stuff like that. Some of your skinnier water is really these bitsy baits, just like this. Look at this paddle tail bitsy baits. Look at the coloration on that.